we chatted a bit. I obviously, we talked about the book. We talked about the visit. He was very pleased, the president, with how it had gone. And he talked about how the king's a great guy. He talked to me about that before. He's a huge fan. He's a passionate royalist. He's a huge Anglophile. He's half British, loves the king. Talked about William, said he's going to be a great king, right? And very enthusiastic about the Princess of Wales, concerned about her health, but keen to see her back, and said what a wonderful job she's doing. And then he said, can Harry make a comeback? And I said, I don't think on a present form that's likely. And he went, boy, that wife of his, and then proceeded to say that the Duchess of Sussex, he said, what she's done to that guy, and sort of rolled his eyes. The conversation then moved on again. But it was the fact that I think he felt the Sussexes had sort of had thrown it all away. He was in very upbeat form about the visit. I mean, obviously this is a big deal for Britain, this visit, but it's a big deal for the president as well. He is, as I say, he's a very keen royalist. He looks back on his meetings with Elizabeth II. And we were looking through the book there, and he was looking at some of the pictures, and there's a picture in there of the last portrait ever painted of her, and it hangs on the wall at Mar-a-Lago because he liked it so much. He liked her so much.
Yes.
So, this is an incredible diplomatic tool we have in the monarchy. I mean, I heard earlier one of your Lib Dem guests saying that, the visit shouldn't have gone ahead. I mean, this visit has been the best thing for British diplomacy and the transatlantic alliance in an age.
Yes.
And when you heard the president's words, both his speech of welcome and also his speech at the state dinner, we're just talking in the most effusive terms about the debt that America owes to Britain for what he called its moral courage and for its sort of values. I mean, these are deep, deep thoughts. And obviously the King's speech to Congress, that was extraordinary. 12 standing ovations. I was in the room for that. Both sides of the House standing up at different points to applaud different bits, but then everyone else followed suit. You can't deliver this sort of soft power in any other way. As we know, our politicians can't do it. Trump has no interest really in seeing any of them. And so I was just a lucky sort of beneficiary of all this sort of royal goodwill. So that's how I ended up going into the White House and handing him a book. And then, as you said, he delivered a very nice review online. I encourage your viewers.
It's the best review. It's the best review online you could ever get.
The Royal Reckoning, Harry and Meghan versus the tabloid machine. And we're back because this story, this never-ending assault on two people who simply chose to live their own lives, just refuses to die down. And frankly, neither will we. Feed GB News. Tabloid clip. Here. What you just watched is the machine in full operation. A media apparatus so desperate, so agenda-driven, that they are out here gleefully amplifying the words of a 34-count convicted felon, a man credibly accused of rape, a man who has called women pigs in public just to take one more swing at Meghan Markle, and the worst part. While they do it, let that sink in. The same press that clutches its pearls about dignity and the sanctity of the crown is celebrating gossip from the Oval Office like it's a gift from above, because their agenda, and make no mistake, an agenda, has always been the same. Paint Meghan as the devil, hope the marriage collapses, and drag Harry back, broken and alone, and if none of that works. Well, the comment sections will tell you the rest, and it is, this is not journalism. This is persecution dressed up in a press pass, and the fact that they believe their own narrative is perhaps the saddest, most chilling part of all. The Crown's relentless war, how the British media weaponized their obsession with Meghan Markle. Video feed, GB News tabloid coverage clips here. What you're witnessing, ladies and gentlemen, is not journalism. It is a carefully orchestrated campaign where media outlets have locked arms, sharpened their knives, and pointed every single blade at one woman, Meghan Markle. Day after day, week after week, these tabloids manufacture narratives, spinning divorce rumours out of thin air, desperately trying to fracture a marriage that, 6 years on, remains unbroken. Because here is the truth they cannot stand. Harry isn't going back, Meghan isn't going anywhere, and no amount of headline recycling changes that reality. And while these very same outlets are breathlessly quoting a 34-count convicted felon sitting in the Oval Office just to take a swing at Meghan, ask yourself, where is that same energy for Prince Andrew? Where are those screaming front pages? The British press will bend over backwards, overlook every royal scandal, every inconvenient truth, every genuine controversy within that palace. But the moment there is even a whisper involving the Sussexes, the machine roars to life. Because this was never about journalism, it was always about destruction. The Crown versus the Sussexes. How the British tabloid machine keeps spinning. And now, because what you're about to see says everything. Everything. Take a look at this GB News coverage right here. This is the tabloid machinery in full motion, cranking out the same tired narrative, recycling the same breathless speculation about returns to Sandringham, reconciliations, coming back into the fold. As if Harry and Meghan haven't built an entirely new life, 6 whole years on, thriving in California while these outlets are still writing the same headline they wrote in 2019. And here's what makes this truly staggering, what makes your jaw drop when you really sit with it. They are gleefully amplifying the words of a 34-count convicted felon, a man with devastating allegations against his name, a man who has called women piggy to their faces, a man whose own relationship with truth is, shall we say, and they are using his words to attack Meghan. A woman, a wife, a mother. Think about that moral gymnastics routine for just 1 second. They will overlook everything about that source just to land one more blow. That's not journalism, that's a vendetta dressed up in a press badge. The Crown's double standard, how the media protects the powerful while targeting Meghan. And here's where the hypocrisy becomes absolutely impossible to ignore, because while these tabloid vultures are gleefully amplifying every word Trump utters about Meghan and Harry, let's talk about what they're conveniently scrutinizing. A man with 34 felony counts, credible rape allegations, and a well-documented history of calling women pigs and worse, sitting in the highest office in the world, and somehow misogynistic commentary is being treated as gospel truth worth broadcasting across British media without so much as a raised eyebrow. And then there's Prince Andrew, whose name, as one sharp commenter pointed out, never even left Trump's lips, and the British press? Silent. Crickets. Because the same outlets clutching their pearls over Harry and Meghan have historically given Andrew's catastrophic scandals a very amount of breathing room. But perhaps the most damning thread running through all of this, and multiple voices in this conversation said it plainly, is race. As one commenter put it directly, and when you look at the relentless dehumanizing coverage Meghan has endured compared to every other member of that institution, it is genuinely difficult to argue otherwise. Royal commentators and their toxic agenda against the Sussexes. What we're witnessing here is nothing short of a calculated, gleeful pile-on, and the mask has well and truly slipped. When royal commentators like Camilla Tominey sit there with that smirk plastered across their face, openly revelling in the fact that a 34-count felon, a man credibly accused of the most heinous acts imaginable, is gossiping about another man's wife from the Oval Office. You have to stop and ask yourself, what exactly is the agenda here? Because, as one commenter put it so perfectly, and that agenda couldn't be clearer. Tear Meghan down by any means necessary, even if it means enthusiastically amplifying the words of a man who calls women piggy, whose respect for women is virtually non-existent, and who, let's be honest, these same commentators would normally never dare platform so approvingly. The sensationalism is breathtaking. The hypocrisy is staggering. And that smirk, that deliberate, calculated smirk, tells you everything you need to know about just how personal, how poisonous, and how utterly devoid of basic human decency this whole operation truly is. The Sussex saga, royal tabloids, Trump's gossip, and the never-ending smear campaign. Video. Insert Camilla Tominey reaction footage. And there she is, folks. Take a good long look at that smirk. That is Camilla Tominey, visibly revelling in the fact that the President of the United States, a 34-count felon, an adjudicated rapist, a man who has publicly called women piggy and married to a former model who barely engages in public discourse, decided to sit in the Oval Office and gossip about a private citizen named Meghan Markle. Let that sink in. These are the same tabloid voices who would lecture us about dignity, about the sanctity of the monarchy, about what it means to be, and yet here they are, absolutely clapping like seals because a man with zero moral authority validated their 6-year obsession with destroying one woman. The hypocrisy is staggering. The agenda is transparent. And the audience, we see it clearly now. Because notice something interesting. Trump never once mentioned Prince Andrew's name. Not once. And neither did the British press. Funny how that works, isn't it? Harry and Meghan, the ultimate triumph over royal toxicity. And here's what the tabloids and their royal cheerleaders simply cannot stand. 6 years on, Harry and Meghan are video feed GB News. Tabloid clips out there in California, far away from the grey skies and greyer souls of an institution that never truly wanted Meghan there in the first place. This couple has built something real, a life rooted in purpose, in love, and in genuine humanitarian work that speaks louder than every poisonous headline ever written about them. The attacks have been relentless, haven't they? Year after year, the same tired narrative recycled. Will they come back? Will they divorce? Will Harry crawl home begging? And yet here the Sussexes stand, unbowed and unbroken, continuing to do the work, showing up for causes that actually, while their critics sit gleefully quoting a 34-count felon in the Oval Office just to score cheap points against a woman whose only real crime, as many have pointed out, is being mixed race and... That happiness, that quiet, defiant California sunshine happiness, isn't just personal vindication. It is absolute and undeniable that Harry and Meghan made exactly the right decision. The Crown's double standard, Harry, Meghan, and the machinery of royal persecution. Let's talk about the breathtaking hypocrisy at the heart of this entire circus. Because the very institutions that built their empire on racism, colonialism, and centuries of systemic oppression are now standing at the gates, demanding Harry and Meghan bow their heads and fall back in line. Think about that for a second. These are the same palaces, the same corridors of power, the same establishment press that have weaponized every tool at their disposal against a mixed-race woman from the moment she dared to join that family. And yet, somehow, the problem. Stripping titles from a mixed-race couple while protecting a prince credibly accused of far worse. That's not tradition. That's prejudice wearing a crown. As one commenter put it plainly, and the most damning indictment of all, the royal family's deafening silence, not a whisper, not a statement, while the tabloid machine runs her name through the mud day after day, year after year. That silence isn't neutrality. That silence, the answer. Truth over tabloids, Harry, Meghan, and the fight against a broken machine. And that, right there, is what resilience actually looks like. Because while the tabloids keep spinning their tired, desperate narratives, Harry and Meghan continue to inspire millions of people around the world who see exactly what is happening and refuse to look away. This is not just a story about a couple who left a palace. This is a story about two people who stood up against a system rotted through with racism and media manipulation. A system that, as so many of you in these comments have powerfully pointed out, first wanted them to fail, then wanted them to divorce, then wanted the world to paint Meghan as a villain, and when none of that worked, resorted to amplifying the words of a 34-count convicted felon just to take one more shot at a woman whose only real crime was being mixed race and unafraid. Insert GB News tabloid clip here. That smirk, that gleeful celebration of a man known for calling women piggy being weaponized against Meghan, that tells you everything you need to know about the agenda at play. Justice, real justice, does not come from royal titles or palace corridors. It comes from us, from choosing to support authentic voices over tabloid poison, from seeing the truth clearly and saying it out loud, loudly, every single time.